What is going on, guys? My name is Taylor Stuber, and I'm here to break down this Week 2 NFL slate on Draftkings.com. If you guys are new here or haven't done so already, would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe, like this video, and then comment below with your favorite play of the day. It really helps out the algorithm, gets my work out to more people, and gets me some more views. I would really appreciate if you guys could do that. If you guys want my more extensive research on this slate, where I go over pretty much all of my favorite plays, get my cheat sheets, my lineups, you guys can join my Patreon, which will be linked down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. So let's just jump right into it. And one last thing before we get into it, this video is sponsored by ThriveFantasy.com. Now, guys, I tell you over and over again, I feel like a broken record when sites offer things like this, and there's so much overlay on these sites as well. You need to take advantage of it. They're running a promo right now. If you use code STUBER or use the link down below when signing up and depositing, you get a 100% match bonus up to $100. And if you deposit at least $10, you'll receive a free ticket into their big $20 contest. And it is not even 5% full as I'm making this video. So less than 2 days away, and this contest isn't even 5% full. Last week, they only filled like 45%. So this contest is more than likely not going to fill and by a long shot. So if you deposit $10, you get that 100% match bonus. You get $20. And then you get the free ticket. So for $10, you can get $40 worth of stuff and enter this contest twice, and it really helps me out as well. So if you guys do that, make sure to let me know. I'll help you create your cards over there. I know someone that signed up using my code yesterday, I believe took second place in this contest, and there was overlay. So there's going to be overlay again. Would make sure to take advantage of that if you guys are wanting to do that. But yeah, we'll start over here with the quarterback position. Just going to give away a couple of my favorite plays and why at each position. And then the rest will be on Patreon. But yeah, at quarterback, there's really only a handful of quarterbacks that I am even considering on this slate, given the situation with the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be the chalkiest game of the slate, but you know, the game is not going to be as chalky as you would imagine it would be, just with there being no bye weeks and these slates being so massive, 13 games on the slate. Like, these guys are only going to be like mid-teens at most in ownership when it comes to the quarterback position. 54.5 over-under between the Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys, up 2.5 points since the open. And honestly, I would not be surprised if it went over that total. Dak Prescott is 6,800 in 5 full games since Mike McCarthy has been coach, dating back to last year. He has averaged 51.8 pass attempts per game. And actually, the Cowboys called 28 rushing plays last game, but Dak audibled out of 12 of them. So when Dak is out there, he knows what he's looking at, and he wants to pass the ball. And so I'm going to be going back to the well with Dak Prescott this week. And then on the opposite side, Justin Herbert. He played in a clean pocket last week against the Washington football team, who has a much better pass rush than the Cowboys. And now the Cowboys are going to be without DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory. And they had 0 sacks in week 1, and Tom Brady attempted 50 pass attempts. That's pretty incredible that they gave up pretty much no pressure and no sacks. And then the other 5 DNs on the roster of the Dallas Cowboys have a combined 10 sacks over the course of their careers, and 7.5 of them have been from Terrell Basham. So I think we're going to see a clean pocket from Justin Herbert. And he has two wide receivers that you can easily pair him with and get some really nice correlation. And then you can bring it back with some Cowboys guys as well. And then my guy Jalen Hurts, I love him this week, but I'm just not going to get to as much of him given the first 2 matchups, or the first 2 quarterbacks I mentioned. But if you guys want to be a bit more contrarian, because I do think that Jalen Hurts is going to be forgotten about just for a couple $100 less, you can get Jalen Hurts in a pretty decent spot. I think that San Francisco's secondary is pretty spotty at best. Go to the running back spot. I could talk about Christian McCaffrey all day. Obviously, he's back. He scored 27.7 fantasy points in week 1 without even scoring a touchdown or ripping off any really big runs. So I think his floor is very, very safe. And the New Orleans Saints defense has taken quite a bit of hits and injuries, and they're going to be without a couple of coaches this week due to COVID. So definitely something to monitor with the Saints defense. I do think that if you can get up to Christian McCaffrey, do so, especially in cash games. I don't mind Dalvin Cook, but Alvin Kamara is a guy that I really want to talk about at 8.8K. He had 16 touches in the first half of this of their game against the Packers, but they won by such a wide margin that he wasn't needed in the second half. And so they used Tony Jones to run out the clock in the second half. Now, I think this game is going to be a lot more competitive, as well as Alvin Kamara only had 3 targets in week 1, but they were so efficient running the ball, and they were winning by so much. They didn't need to pass him the ball that much. I think this game is going to be a lot more competitive, and so we could see one of these games where he receives 6-7 catches. And if you guys are looking at player props, I actually like the over on his receptions this week at 8,800. Absolutely love Alvin Kamara, and I think he is going to be pretty low owned. Nick Chubb at 7,800. I mean, this is about as good of a matchup as it possibly gets. Severe offensive line, defensive line advantage in the favor of Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns. They are 13-point home favorites, and we saw what the touchdown upside is for him just last week. He scored twice, and then Kareem Hunt also scored on the 1-yard line. That could have easily been Chubb's touchdown. He could have came away with 3 touchdowns, and he would be a lot more popular if that was the case, but regardless, I like Nick Chubb quite a bit. More of a GPP play for me just because he is so touchdown dependent. But, man, this is like a game that screams like 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Really good spot for Nick Chubb. And then Austin Eckler, like I mentioned earlier, this game is just something you want to be targeting as much as you possibly can between the Cowboys and the Chargers. We saw that he came away with 0 targets in week 1. I don't expect that to moving forward, and we saw Roundtree play a lot more than we thought he was going to be. You know, moving up to week 1, we saw that Eckler was dealing with a hamstring injury, unsure if he was going to play. He ended up being active. I think that had a lot to do with his snap share and his lack of targets, because I just think they didn't want to have him out there running routes, but I think that he can get that done this week. But the positive thing about Eckler is that we saw him get multiple touches within the 5-yard line. So yeah, that was kind of what was in question. Are they gonna give him the goal line work? And they ended up doing it this week. So yeah, I like Austin Eckler quite a bit in GPPs. Not really touching him in cash games. Najee Harris at 6,300. Now this is gonna be the chalk of the chalk this week. You guys have all heard it. He played 100% of the offensive snaps in week 1. They are 6.5-point home favorites. And the recency bias of him just playing poorly against a good Buffalo Bills defense may lower his ownership, although everybody is talking about Najee Harris. But for good reason. I do like him at 6,300. Chris Carson, similar situation, honestly. Rashad Penny is now out for the foreseeable future. You know, he is always hurt. So Alex Collins going to be the main backup for Chris Carson. But the Seattle Seahawks, they want to run the ball. And this is the matchup to do it against. 6.5 home favorites. He had 3 targets as well, which is a really positive thing for Chris Carson because he's not known for catching the ball all that much. And then the Titans defense, we saw last week, they were just absolutely decimated by the Arizona Cardinals. I think we could see a similar situation here, and then Chris Carson could salt away the game in the second half. So I like him a good bit at 6,100, a pretty solid pivot off of Najee Harris. I don't mind Darrell Henderson. 94% of the backfield opportunities last week. Michelle only got 1 carry last week, and that was late into the fourth quarter. And we saw Darrell Henderson get the goal line touches. And, you know, I think it's kind of overblown how long it really takes Michelle to understand the playbook and get under control with this Rams offense and understanding it. I think that he may play more moving forward, but I still think that Darrell Henderson comes away with 80% plus of the backfield targets and carries. and not to mention how good this offense is. I think this Rams defense, or offense rather, is pretty elite, and I want to have a cheap piece and cheap exposure at 5,700 with Darrell Henderson. And then right before I made this video, it was announced that Josh Jacobs, who was injured all this week, is going to in fact miss this game. And so we're going to see Kenyon Drake come into the starting spot. And he's going to be popular for somewhat good reason. It is a very tough matchup against maybe the best defensive line in the league in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only 4,900. Gruden is known for giving his starting running back a large majority of the touches, and they paid Kenyon Drake. They gave him a 2-year, $14.5 million contract. He came in to be really just a passing downs back and to mix things up with Josh Jacobs, but with Jacobs out, we're gonna see him kind of take majority of the first 2 downs, and then I think that he's going to be the third down back as well. Gruden did mention that Peyton Barber is going to play some in this game, but that doesn't really scare me off of him. If that lowers ownership, I like that because I like Kenyon Drake. But if you want to get off of Kenyon Drake, who I think is going to be somewhat popular just given his price tag, and then just because Josh Jacobs is out, you can go to Chase Edmonds as a home favorite against the Minnesota Vikings. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than the last game, and so Edmonds is going to be out there a lot more. They kind of salted the game away just because they were up by so much against the Titans and gave Connor the carries. But Edmonds, while the game was competitive or through the first 3 quarters, really, he was the guy out there. I think he had 4 targets in week 1. And he is a very, very good pivot on a much better offense in a much better matchup. So pivoting off of Drake to Edmonds is one of my favorite plays this week, especially in tournaments. Move over to the wide receiver position now. Usually I always play 3 running backs in cash, but this week I'm really considering playing 4. Just because there's 5 wide receivers that I think are absolutely elite spots this week, especially given their price tag. And 4 of them come from 2 teams. So the Cowboys and the Chargers, only 2 wide receivers tandems with 50% plus of their combined teams' targets. And so Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Williams, I think they're all in smash spots. Keenan Allen last week had 13 targets, caught 9 of them for 100 yards. He's averaged 11.5 targets per game in full games with Herbert dating back to last year. Herbert's rookie season, he's only $7,000. And I mentioned, I think this game is going to be very, very pass heavy. And Herbert should be in a clean pocket for the majority of the game. Amari Cooper, in 5 full games with Prescott since McCarthy has taken over, he's had targets of 16, 15, 14, 12, and 9. And we saw in the second half of the last game against the Buccaneers, where the Cowboys offense really started clicking, was when Prescott was just locked on Amari Cooper, getting him 10 targets in the second half, and they almost ended up winning that game. And then obviously Michael Gallup is out for the foreseeable future, so he's going to be replaced by guys like Cedric Wilson, maybe Noah Brown if he is indeed active this game. But that's quite the downgrade from Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches, 15 targets, 104 yards, and a touchdown last week. He had a bunch of drops in that last game. But him and Cooper were switching in and out of the slot roles, when last year CeeDee Lamb was very dominant in the slot role. So if they're going to be switching in and out, that raises the floor of both of them, but makes me like Amari Cooper even more because I was unsure who was going to run that position. But I think we're going to see them switch in and out. But regardless, I think both these guys are going to see 50% plus of their target share, of their team's target share. And I'm not afraid to lock in both of them into my lineup, even if it is cash. Not Chris Godwin, although I do think Chris Godwin is a pretty decent play this week. Mike Williams at 6,100. I think a lot of people may be scared off of this price tag, but I think there is a lot of promise when it comes to playing Mike Williams. He had 12 targets in week 1, had a couple drops in the second half, so he could have had an even better game. He only came down with 8 of those balls. But we know how good Mike Williams is when he's healthy. But he is healthy right now, so we need to be taking advantage of that and playing him while he is healthy. And, you know, unlike last year where he was used mainly as a deep threat, they were getting him involved pretty much everywhere on the field just to make sure he got the ball. And, yeah, 12 targets is something we weren't seeing from him last year. Clear second receiving option on this team behind Keenan Allen. Absolutely love him over here. And then if you're playing on FanDuel, I believe he's 55 or 5,600, so even better spot over there on FanDuel. I'm not afraid to play all four of those guys. 2 Chargers, 2 Cowboys. Make sure to play Herbert or Dak Prescott. I think that game absolutely goes off. And the Cooper Kupp at $6,000. If you don't want to play all 4 of those guys, I think that Kupp is a good pivot. Seems to be Stafford's favorite guy right off the rip. He's going to be popular this week. If you guys want to be a bit more contrarian, just play Robert Woods. He's $300 less. He's going to get a fraction of the ownership of Cooper Kupp, and I think his upside honestly is just as high if you're playing tournaments. And then one other guy I wanted to mention was Jalen Waddle. So yeah, Will Fuller is going to miss this game. He missed game 1 due to suspension. He's going to miss this game due to personal reasons. And honestly, they made it sound like they were unsure if he was even going to play at all this year, which is a boon to my best ball drafts, which is unfortunate. But Jalen Waddle, I do have a good bit of him. He is only 4,500. He is the slot man. Tua barely threw the ball last week, but when he did, it was to Waddle, it was to Devontae Parker, it was to their running backs and their tight ends, but not Gesicki. So we know that is going to be a condensed target share, especially when it comes to the receivers. Waddle and Devontae Parker, the only 2 wide receivers with catches last week, and with him being a lower ADOT slot receiver, I think he's going to be the first look from Miami. And like I mentioned, Tua barely threw the ball last week, but that was in a neutral game script against the Patriots, and it was just a really slow game. I think this game is going to be quite the opposite, actually. I think Buffalo, coming off a loss, is really going to pour it on the Miami defense. And so Tua could pass the ball 40 to 50 times in this game. And Waddle is going to be one of the main targets, only 4,500. Absolutely love Jalen Waddle this week. And then if you guys need some salary relief, Cedric Wilson is 3,100. Should take over the role of Michael Gallup. Maybe not play as many of the snaps, but with them passing so much, there's going to be a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. So Cedric Wilson should be a pretty decent salary saver at 3,100. Move over to the tight end position. Darren Waller, 7,600. 19 targets last game and 10 plus targets in 5 of his last 6 games. They should be trailing in this game. Pittsburgh's strong suit is their defensive line. And so it's going to be tough, especially without Josh Jacobs. It's going to be tough for the Vegas Raiders to run the ball. I think there could be quite a bit of pressure onto Derek Carr. So he's going to be looking to his main target in Darren Waller. And it looks like when you watch the game, he just forces it to Darren Waller. So if he's under pressure, he's going to be the first look every single time, even more so in this game. I think Kyle Pitts is a decent GPP play at 5,200. It was promising his target share last week, but his ownership is going to be a lot lower due to how much he was burned. Don't mind going back to Kyle Pitts. Noah Fant is probably my favorite cash game tight end at 4,200. Led the team with 8 targets last week. Jerry Jeudy is now out. And then the Texans just destroyed the Jacksonville defense. So if the Texans can do that to Jacksonville, I think that the Broncos can definitely do that. And Noah Fant could be the number 1 target on this Denver team. 4,200 seems entirely too cheap for Noah Fant. And then if you guys need some salary relief, and what I think is actually a pretty good play is James O'Shaughnessy at 2,700. 80% of the offensive snaps in week 1 received 8 targets. Trevor Lawrence passed the ball 51 times, and could be a similar game script. And yeah, 2,700. I mean, I'm curious to see what the ownership ends up being on him. But in cash games, I think he's very safe, because if he can come down with like 8 or 9 points, but he's that much cheaper than every other tight end on the slate, I think that he more than gets it done. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like this video, comment below. It really helps out the algorithm. Best of luck this week, and until next time, peace.